Welcome to Mama Tales, a podcast that celebrates our collective motherhood journey. I'm your host, Sally Quiria. Here's a big welcome to everyone listening to this podcast for the very first time. We have been waiting for you. New episodes drop every Tuesday, so see you here again next week. Yeah. There are over 40 episodes to catch up on, covering all the ups and downs of parenting. So maybe it's time for a binge session. Also, remember to check us out on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search for Mama Tales Podcast and you're in. I also publish a bi-monthly newsletter which features personal essays, ideas, and highlights from the podcast and the community around it. It's been a minute since I put out a new issue. Life has just been lifing, but I need to fix that up because I got some amazing news for all of you. So be on the lookout for that and subscribe if you haven't already. It is open to contributors, so if you have an idea, a thought, or a story you want to write or share with this community, just let me know by reaching out to me on email at mamatillspod@gmail.com or replying to any published issue. You can find links to all of this in the show notes of this episode. And if you want to subscribe, there's a link to that as well, or you can just head on over to the website, that's mamatillspodcast.com, and join the community. Lastly, I think I talked about this in the previous episode, I am on a recording spree. I've received a few new story recording requests that I'm really excited to get to, so I'll be reaching out to you soon about that. If you're listening to this and you have a story about your motherhood experience that you'd like to share, we would love to hear it. Just let me know by filling the form that I've shared in the show notes of this episode. There is also a little form there that captures potential topics that you'd like to see covered on here as well. So if you have something in mind, please let me know and I will take it into consideration. I have a very interesting episode for you today, and before we go on, I feel like it is really important to have, or rather give, a little disclaimer. This episode talks about grief and death. So if you're not in the mental space to handle that right now, I'd skip this one and come back to it later maybe. Our storyteller today is Carol, a mom of two who is constantly grappling with grief and honoring her mother's memories and life through her kids. Here's a bit of what's coming up.
The dad had stabilized and he was like, I would like us to move in together and we bring up the baby together. So he came to see my mom, and then my mom was like, no, I'm Manuel, and as you can see, Caro is the one who is taking care of me. I don't think this is the best time of you having her. You can wait till I'm well. That's what she said. Unfortunately, she never got well. So we lost her in February 15th. Because you say, all along I've been saying we die when we are old, or when we lose someone, they died because they are old. They got sick because they are old. And that's something I've realized. We don't talk to kids that way. Kids also die. It's rarely talked about. And that's something I'm willing to make my kids understand. I sometimes wished she was there as my mother and also as a grandmother. My husband is also an orphan, so my kids, they don't have like shoshos and gukas. Yeah. And that's also some point, like I have wished she was there to do like what kind of a grandmother she would have been.
Kama kawaida, before we jump into that episode, it's time for the highlight of the week. This little nugget of time where we look back at our week to find moments that have brought us joy. My highlight this week has more to do with me than my kids, which I still think is valid. I've made a big step in my career and finally brought someone on my team. It was a hard decision, I won't lie. As a hyper-independent person, the idea of not being able to do everything on my own is crippling. And to be honest, that has really slowed me down. It's only this week that I saw myself as a founder, as someone building something of value to others, and I have a responsibility towards making it happen. So an extra pair of hands does not hurt. It is taking a lot to get used to, but it kind of feels familiar to the time when I finally accepted help in the house by hiring a full-time nanny. On top of all my work, I was also taking care of our daughter and the house, and by the time I was 8 months pregnant with my son, something had to give. I did my homework, I got an amazing lady to come live with us, and it's been the best decision yet. Got a highlight you'd like to share? Find out how to do so in the show notes of this episode. As you can clearly see, there's a lot of good stuff in the show notes of this episode, so if you've never checked them out, yeah? I feel like this is the time to. Carol was looking forward to being a mother. Being very close to her own, she loved the bond that she shared with her mom and wanted the same for herself.
I had a beautiful relationship with my mother, and having lost my dad at a young age, I grew up mostly with her. And it was just, life was all about me and her. My siblings were out in school, and life was smooth. Like, we never had issues, we never gombanad. It was just smooth, and I was looking forward to that. Like, I would like to be a mother. And I usually say that I wanted to be a mother when young. And I remember telling a college friend that I would like to be a mother before you get married. Because for her, she wanted to get married when young. That's when I believed the power of words. For her, she was like, I love marriage. I want to get married when young. And for me, used to say, I want to be a mother when young. And you know what? She got married in April 2015. And I was pregnant with my firstborn. I was 23, she was 22.
She wanted to be a young mom, and getting pregnant at 23 meant that is what she would be. Asked her if she knew what it meant to be a mother that young.
No, I guess from what I had with my mom, it's what I thought I would have. And it's what I was looking for. I thought it was all smooth. Like, I usually say, like, I have never had a bed of my own back at home. I used to share a bed with my mother for the 25 years that I have had her in my life. And so that's what I thought I'll have. Like, it will be beautiful being a mother, no stresses. Again, I never knew what my mother was going through behind the scenes. Yeah. Was she struggling? I never saw that part. So I actually saw a happy woman. I'm a happy child. I had what I wanted. We slept together. We laughed. Yeah. I was in college. My then husband was still also in college. And I realized when I got to know I was pregnant, I puked. It was December 13th, after the 12th holiday. We had come from our shosho, a get-together that we had there. And so I was like, why am I puking in the morning? What did I eat yesterday? And then I never puke. I've never puked before. So automatically I was like, wait a minute. I Googled and I saw about morning sickness, that yellow thing vomiting, how it is. And I got confused. I didn't know who to tell. At first I was like, do I keep the baby? Do I abort? If I abort and I die, what will happen to my mom? Like, I was so worried about her than I was worried about myself. And so I said, whatever happens will happen. And I was like, before the ball shows, I'll go on with it. But my morning sickness was so terrible. Faking it, like having to puke and I'm going outside and pretending all is okay. I cannot complain and say like, I'm feeling so terrible. Like, I need some time alone. I need to have this. I don't want to eat this. So even if I never wanted kitungo, I will have it because what will I say? Yeah. Also, again, I felt like a failure. Being the first one, being pregnant, especially on my maternal side, my mom's side, my cousins, we have had those steps like get married, finish school, graduate, get married, have kids. Here I am being the first one, and it wasn't beautiful. I was so worried, the fear of judgment, what will happen, what will they say about my mother, has she failed, and also being the last born. My sister has never gotten a kid. My brother is married. Here I am, still in school, pregnant. I don't know what the father will say. Will he deny? And I think I was just fighting a lot of things back to my mind that made me lock myself. Like, it was just me and nothing else. I never attended the clinics. At the point where God says, like, he sees and he knows what we're going through. Because I imagined, what if God was not with me? Like, at that point, the complications that I will have. I never took the supplements, the folic acids. Okay. And my daughter is fully okay, completely okay. And I remember when my mom, they came to know about it, they had to get me a counselor because they didn't know like how to approach me. They were afraid. The fact that they knew I haven't spoken about it, they asked my close cousins, has Shuru mentioned she's pregnant to you? And then she said, no, I don't even have an idea that she is pregnant. We haven't talked. I haven't told my boyfriend that I was pregnant. Up to 7 months.
7 months.
Yes. All along, I never shopped for anything. Literally. Like, I was just going on with life. And also, I was afraid of what people will say. Like, I was like, it's better I stay this way other than me coming out, I'm pregnant, and then I get the backlash. What will happen to me? I felt it might be worse than than me being pregnant. And the reason I never told my boyfriend is because what if he denied? Am I ready to handle that? So I'm like, back in my mind, let me assume he has denied, other than having those words like, I don't want anything to do with you or the baby.
This is such a relatable experience for young moms. The fear of judgment, of denial, makes a young mom quiet and recluse. Her mom was suspicious for some time and kept asking questions.
She kept asking me, like, what's up with your stomach? Okay. And then, kuna hao mama ushago, they know. Yeah. So she had some of her friends telling her, your daughter is pregnant. And then she will deny, because she would ask me, are you pregnant? And then I tell her, no, you see, it's because I've been taking a lot of porridge lately. And that's how much she trusted me, such that she couldn't doubt me. Okay. And I believe, I'm happy that she trusted me that much. She bought what I said, till that I couldn't hide it anymore. It was big. And I remember now one day I was at my auntie's place in KU, and I was told, there is someone who's coming to pick you up. We need you to talk to her. So by the time we got in her car, I was like, hey, Miriam, I know what you have been sent to ask me. I'm pregnant, tell them that. And I'm happy they did it that way, because I think I was also afraid of their expressions, the shock. They might be angry and then pretend they were happy. And those are some kind of things that I'll never forget. I told my mother I was pregnant and she reacted this way. And I'm happy it happened that way. And she called my mother right away. Yeah, she has admitted she's pregnant. And then she went ahead to tell me, your mother doesn't even want to know who the father is. She's ready to take care of the baby. And that was it. First, let me say, I had a great system. My sister and my mother, because after that, they shopped for the baby. I was coming to the end of my college, so I was doing my exams, so I was able to do it well before I delivered the baby, and it was smooth. I never got any backlash as I thought. I told the dad about it, the pregnancy, and he was first in shock. His message was like, this is the shock of the year. And I told him 2 weeks to delivery. Yeah, and and so he was like, he called later in the evening and he was like, as you know, like, I won't deny my baby, but as per now, you can say I'm still a student. I can't promise I'll take care of the baby. But my mom and sister, they did that wholeheartedly. And what I was afraid of, I'll experience the separation, I'll feel alone. I never felt that. I think that's also the point that I felt more loved. Because now everyone loved the baby. The baby was named after my mom. She was so happy about it. And I remember even in her deathbed, she kept saying, there is a baby named after me. And it was just a joy to see how happy she was that I had a baby at the wrong time. To her, she never saw it that way. It was just like I also needed this baby to have her in my last days to make me happy. And it was just beautiful. Yeah. I can say the dad was there fully because he happened to go for internship back in Bungoma. And I think it was unpaid because he met the baby, I think she was 6 months. He was kind of emotionally supportive, but not the financial part. But again, with that, I had a great supportive system. My family, they were. And it was quite a challenge. I didn't know what to do. Do I look for a job? Where do I begin? Will my life ever go ahead? Will I ever go back to school? And what will happen to my friends? I had a lot of questions. One thing, I'm grateful that I never fell into depression because I felt that I would have, especially if I'd never had my mom's support. I remember after hospital, nilikuwa nimeshonwa that part. I had a tear and she washed me because literally from head to toe for 2 days. And I felt like I needed her. Like she was there the time I needed her most. And I'm grateful for that. Maybe my baby coming up that early, not planned, and being like a disappointment to my family was also like a blessing in disguise.
Unfortunately, her mom died 2 years after the birth of her daughter.
She was happy. She loved the baby, literally. And I remember there was a time she'll tell me, it's socially said, you let the baby to cry so that they can develop their vocals. Because we will have both spoiled the baby. And she kept mentioning that I have a baby named after me. My daughter got a baby. To her, it wasn't embarrassing. I think she took my embarrassment, whatever I was feeling, it's either she was reading my mind because she covered that so well. She never made me feel alone. She never made me feel like I've made the wrong decision. She loved me the way I was. How our relationship was before the baby, it didn't change at all. And the fact that I had kept it away from her, she never questioned me why did you do this? Why didn't you tell me from the first time you got to know of it? She didn't. Actually, what? No, the dad had stabilized. And he was like, I would like us to move in together and we bring up the baby together. So he came to see my mom, and then my mom was like, no, I'm Manuel, and as you can see, Caro is the one who is taking care of me. I don't think this is the best time of you having her. You can wait till I'm well. That's what she said. Unfortunately, she never got well. So we lost her in February 15th. So sad that it was during my brother's birthday. And we moved in together in June 1st, 2017. Yeah.
After moving in with her child's father, life went on. She had her mom's death at the back of her mind, but had a baby to take care of and life to figure out. But before she could really move on, she got a little surprise.
The second child, I can say, I was ready for a baby, but it happened too soon. I always say, I think it happened either between 1st and 5th of June. That time we moved in together. Okay. I got pregnant either between 1st and 5th. And here we were, we had insurance cover, we're doing well, he's working, I'm working. Life was good. I attended all my clinics. I did all the scans. Funny thing, I never had a scan for my daughter. And here I was now with the son, pregnant now with my son. I'm taking all the supplements that I couldn't even afford then, even if I wanted to. Yeah. And it was quite smooth, though I still had nausea. And I came to realize how sometimes we take things into our hands. You see, for my daughter, I never attended any clinic, and I had no complications. Here with my son, everything is going well, but I had an emergency CS. A week earlier, the baby was okay. The head was down. Going the next minute, the baby was breech. And he had low heartbeat, so it was an emergency. And it was so sad because I delivered my son on 16th of February, and I lost my mom on 15th of February. So I'm delivering my son today, and yesterday was my mom's first anniversary. It was hard. It was terrible. At that point, I got some fear in me, I'm going to die. I'm going to walk in theater because after I was going to Coptic for my clinics. And I remember when I got at the reception giving out my insurance card, I was like, I've come because it's not my clinic day or I want to deliver. It's because my baby hasn't played since morning. And that guy was looking at me like, you know what, this is an emergency. I'm like, no, I'm okay, I'm walking. Next minute, I'm in the emergency room, a nurse with a Doppler, and then they're saying, We can't feel a heartbeat. They call in the sonographer room. We need you to stop what you are doing. We have an emergency. I'm like, no, I'm walking. I'm breathing. What is it?
Yeah.
And when I got there, I can't remember her name, the doctor, the sonographer. She was like, I know I cannot tell you much, but all I have to tell you, you need an emergency CS. I've talked with the gynecologist, and it's being planned in the next 2 hours. And I'm like, how? And back in my mind, I think with my first pregnancy, I never had, like all along, I've never thought I'll ever have a CS. I never had a room for that, like all along. I knew I'm going to deliver a baby normally. Yeah. I didn't have even a second thought I'm going to have a CS. So I went outside there. There was a couch. I sat there and I cried, like wailing, not even the silent cry. And that's one point that ever after my mom passed, I wished she was there. And I was like, if I die, who will take care of my babies? Or if I die with this baby, what will happen to my daughter? Will she be able to go on with life? Will she be taken by the dad, my sister, or what will happen? Because I have heard stories of how someone goes into theater and they don't get out. And so all that fear and my mom's grieving broke me down. And I remember I called my cousin, my sister, and within an hour, I had 6 families around me. And I think that's the support that I needed then. They stayed with me till I delivered, and it was good. Like, it's not what I had expected, but it went on well.
Going back home was different this time because her mother wasn't there, but her aunt stepped in.
So immediately after I was discharged from the hospital, she told my husband, like, you are not going with her. I'm having her stay like the first, I think I stayed there for a month in my place. I need to have a look at her. And also I think that kind of helped me. It saved me a lot. I don't know what will have happened because here my husband missed the first years of our daughter, so he will be like a new dad. Here I am healing a CS wound. I need maybe all the support, and this man doesn't know what do I do because he never had the experience with the first baby. And my auntie having me that period, at that time I wouldn't have noticed the impact that happened to me, but today I can say it helped. And because she clearly took what my mom would have done. Yeah, the cohiuherio part, taking care of me, bathing the baby, changing the baby waking up at night and asking me, are you okay to turn and feed the baby, or I can just hold the baby till he sleeps? And I say, okay, because also again, she did what my mom used to do. I slept in her bed. And I know, like, it may seem like just something small, like it's normal, but to me, she saved me a lot. Maybe she saw what I didn't see then, but that really moved me. Like, it was a big step for me.
We will take a short break here, and when we're back, Carol talks about sharing her grief openly with her kids. Welcome back. In this episode, we are listening to Carol's story, a mom of 2 who had a very close bond with her mom, who passed away when Carol was just getting a hang of being a young mom. At the beginning of the episode, Carol said that it was the bond with her mom that heavily influenced her decision to be one. Now that she has 2 kids, I wondered how impactful that was in reality.
I was so close with her, and how I slept with her, I knew I wanted to sleep with my babies. I wanted my babies next to me. I want to feel each and every of their heartbeat. Are they okay? What's happening? And I sometimes wished she was there as my mother and also as a grandmother. My husband is also an orphan, so my kids, they don't have like shoshos and go cars. And that's also some point, like I have wished she was there to do like what kind of a grandmother she would have been. Funny thing how my kids, they talk about her. I've been able to keep that going. No, like there's a time I told my daughter, I wanted to show how vulnerable I can also be as an adult and as her mother. I told her, Mama, I feel like breaking down. She asked me why. Because I miss my mother. And she held me and she told me, Mommy, don't cry. We also miss being with Shosho. And at that point, I felt, I've always thought it's me who lost. And before, I never thought they also lost someone. And my daughter saying that, I realized I'm going to keep her memories alive. I'm going to tell my daughter she's named after a great woman. And we will keep talking about her. And there's a time we were going through my dad's photos. Her burial was captured into details with photos, like from the morgue to the burial part, each and every pic. It's like a story. And then my son was asking me, no, Mom, because you didn't die when I was young. Are you going to die when I'm big? And I told him, no, you're not going to die when I'm big. I'm going to live maybe, God willing, up to 100 years. And then he said, or up to infinity. And we laughed about it. And then it will give me that part of talking about death. I also had to tell him death doesn't happen to adults. It also happened to kids. And it was sad seeing him asking, oh, so also I can die. And I said, no, I had to bring out like the causes of death. A baby can choke. So I gave an example. Maybe you can get a baby. I can be breastfeeding the baby and the baby chokes, or when with auntie, the nanny, and the baby dies. Or we can get an accident. You're out there in a car or out playing and you die. Or you can be sick and you die. And I had to do it slowly because for my daughter, she's quite understanding. But for my son, I saw even at that point, he didn't grasp the whole thing. He got a bit confused because up to now he still asks, oh, so Mommy, you said I can also die because I'm a baby. We dream and pray to live for long when we are to adults, shoshos and gukas, but anything can happen in between. They can die, we can lose a cousin, they can lose a classmate, and God is still the same. Because I remember with that, my son is very curious and talkative, asked me, Mom, before your mom died, did you used to pray? And I said yes. And then why didn't you pray so that she doesn't die? I realized, wow, the things that I've never thought of. Yeah. And again, I said, you say, again, I think I don't know if I was too straight because I was like, God answers prayers in different ways. And now I brought the concept in. My mom was too sick. She was in pain. And I told him, like, I prayed to God if he will heal my mom through making her rest or making her, like, to be completely out of pain, to let it be. And God answered my prayer through making my mom rest out of pain. And then he was like, oh, so you can pray and someone dies.
I love your son. He's asking the passionate questions.
And that one I never had an answer.
Yeah.
I just did something and we brushed that off because I was either going to complicate myself because these are some of the questions that I never thought I would be ready to answer. Because me thought we are going to talk about I lost my mom and my dad. That's it. No more questions. But I'm glad because now their concept with death, and now I'm also teaching them how to handle. If your classmate loses someone's clothes, you're not supposed like to do this. Just be kind, show compassion. Yeah. Because also that's something I've realized we don't do. Yeah. Your kid can lose one of her friends. How will you handle that? Yeah. How will your kid handle her friend? What are kind of questions will your kid be asking your friend? I had, speaking of that, as kids, after I lost my dad when we were young, I was 3. my cousins from my dad's side, they used to say, hamtakuwa mnakula nyama kwa sababu baba yenu ya kununua nyama amekufa.
To translate that, she said that her cousins would say, now you won't be eating meat at home because your dad has died.
And you see, words are very powerful. Yes. Up to now, that's something I'll never forget. Yeah. I was 3 or 4, but I'll never forget that part. You once said to me, sitai kula nyama. Yeah, because I see when you were growing up in your dads, they used to come with nyama in the evening. Yeah. And also now has made me realize, as parents, how do we handle our kids when one of their friends lose someone close to them? Because I wouldn't wish my kids to cause someone that kind of pain, and kids are innocent. Like, they're saying that out of innocence. Maybe because at that time I was also not understanding death. The same to my cousin, maybe she was not also understanding what happened. But they knew my dad has died, he's not coming back, so we will not be eating nyama. I might have lost my dad when I was 3. That's how many years later? 31 minus 3. Yeah. But he was part of me. I cannot get rid of that. I cannot wake up and tell my kids that part of me never existed. And whatever I knew of him, the pictures, I will have to show them. Yeah. Again, my son saying my dad's coffin. I think my daughter I don't know where she learned it from, that when someone gets buried, they decompose, the worms comes and everything. Gosh. And so she mentioned that to my son. So my son asked, Mom, is it true that when you die, you decompose and then you have worms all over you? And I said, yes. Mm-hmm. And then he pointed on my dad's photo, the coffin photo, and then he said, so that's what happened to our Guka. And I said, yes. Even to Shosho, my mom, that's what happened to her. And even when I'll die, that's what will happen to me. And when you'll die, that's what will happen to you. I'm almost to become a grief therapist through my kids. No, like, we move on. We say we talk, but he never forgets. He brings something, and I realized, oh, you learned about it. You understand. Yeah. And yeah, I think that's also the beauty of going through life in a bit and painful way. It's making me help my kids to become, at least, to understand what is grief and how to handle people. Yeah. Not to be mean, just be kind. Whatever you say, words are powerful. Just to make an impact in the society, to their friends. These are the things that we have never talked. Let me actually ask you, like, parents, a kid, for example, I can die, my son is there, and my daughter. But what will they be told? Mommy is dead, but you go on with life. Your kids are not allowed to mourn. How many times do we send kids to school till the burial day because they are kids? We forget they have feelings. And I usually say, like, grief is all about a relationship you had with the departed. The relationship I have with my son is different with my daughter. Or people expecting my daughter and my son to mourn me the same way, sending both of them to school. It's so wrong. And I wish we can have this being brought out, like, kids to be allowed to mourn the way adults mourn. Just because they have tiny bodies, tiny minds, they have feelings. And they might be mourning more than an adult. I remember my mom used to love reading Parents magazine. And she was a hoarder. She had this Parents magazine from the year 1976 to 1998. We have all those back at home. And after I was done with Form 4, that period before the results came out, I spent my time reading those magazines. Like, now I had all the time to do that. And I remember there is this segment, My Story, and a child therapist was giving out her story, how she dealt with a child who was mourning 4 years later after losing a sibling. I think the child was 3 years. And I think she was going to nursery because that child was never allowed to mourn. The parents weren't going to work. They stayed home for that period, mourning, crying. But this baby was being told, no, it's just a baby brother who is dead. You go to school. You're just a baby. You don't understand what is happening. Yeah. But 4 years later, they had to get that kid a therapist. And you can imagine that kid had already been robbed 4 years because of grief. Yeah. It wasn't handled right away and at the right time. We brush off kids and it's so bad.
Throughout our conversation, I could feel that Carol is very intentional about her kids. I asked her if there's anything else she holds close to her, other than making sure that they knew who their grandmother was.
Our relationship. And one thing that has helped me with that, I can tell how different my kids are. You can say my son is talkative. He expresses his love for me. My son can shout out from outside, Mom, I love you, and I'll hear it up to that floor where I am. While I can tell my daughter I love you, and she'll just say, okay. And knowing my daughter's what she likes and what is love to her, understanding her as a person, no, not even my daughter, and understanding my son as a person. This is who you are. This is what you like. These are your love languages. This is what you feel when I do this to you. And my daughter, the same, has helped me to have a good relationship with them so far. Because I can say with my daughter, I can do something like, maybe my son, I was sitting down, my son has come, he's like, Mom, hold me. And then I've held him. And then my daughter will come. But Mom, you never hold me. And I'm like, Iceland, you have never told me to hold you. Yeah. Lemuel is coming out here and speaking it out. So having to realize that Iceland is not vocal, it's me to know how she is, how to relate with her, what works for her, and go up to her level. Yeah. Do you want us to read together? Do you want to sleep with me? And a funny thing, having been sleeping with my mom for the better part of my life, I'm taking that. For the first 3 months, I've slept with my kids in my bed. It's not that they don't have their beds. And I remember one time I was away at night. I think I was at work for night shift. And then my daughter told me, Mom, do you know why we like sleeping in your bed? Because we feel safe. And then I was like, oh my, if this is how they feel, I'm never going to deny them this. Yeah. I'm going to let them feel safe. If my bed will be their safe space, that's the only place they can be themselves and allow all the feelings they were feeling during the day to be. I'm going to give them that. And with that, it has made us also, apart from us being close, their relationship as siblings, it's close. They are relating so well. There's a time, their school, girls should put on stockings, but I think there are times some girls do socks. So my daughter one time, she wanted to put on socks, and she doesn't have black socks. It's either have to be black stockings or black socks for the boys. And then Lemuel asked him, and Lemuel is 5, mind you, will putting on socks make you have a better day? And she said yes. And then Lemuel said, okay, I'm going to put on your stocking and you put on my socks. I've never felt proud, by the way. And I was like, wow, so means a 5-year-old can once put their interest and make sure her sister is okay. And those are the moments that I look forward to, and being intentional, and naming their feelings. That is one thing also that I'm working on. How are you feeling? I'm making them understand that being happy, it's good, and being angry, it's good. Being angry, it equals to being happy. They are all feelings. We cannot justify being happy is the best. You feeling angry is equal to the best because we cannot avoid that. Feeling embarrassed, it's good. Feeling jealousy because your friend has something you don't have, it's good. But how do you handle that? Yeah. How do you handle jealousy? Yeah. It's good, like, my friend has a new bike, I don't have a new bike. It's okay to feel that, but it doesn't mean that you can get the same bike as your friend. Yeah, so I'm loving the journey that I am in at the moment. And I can say it's because of the relationship that I had with my mom. The nights that we shared together, us cooking together, has made me to be like who I am today. There's a time I watched a clip in TikTok, and that made me realize actually I need to heal something in me. If your daughter breaks a cup or a bowl, what do you do? What happens? First, we're like, why did you break it? We don't even inquire, are you hurt? Are you okay? We first react to the material thing. Why are you so careless? Like, what were you doing? Why did you break it? But when do we put them first? Are you okay? Are you hurt? And then you deal with the plate later. And I realized I was quite acting like that. Nowadays, they can break a plate and we laugh. And my son, he's very cheeky. He'll say, Mom, I broke a plate and I'm not cut. Yeah, so I think parenting is bringing up the kids as we learn how to bring them up. We're also learning about us, those gaps that we had, how to fill them, how to be a better mother, because we cannot be perfect. No one is perfect.
As has become tradition, before we ended our conversation, I asked her what she was looking forward to in her motherhood journey. And as a bonus, what tips she had for parents talking to their kids about death and grief.
Wow, bringing up kind kids and responsible kids. I think that's all I want. Like, I would look forward to my son coming back. He's an adult and say, wow, Mom, today something kind happened. A friend of mine did something and I reciprocated. I did this way. Like, yeah, just having responsible and kind kids out there. That's what I look forward to and keep me going. Yeah. Number one, I would say be honest and be true. One thing I've realized especially with how my dad died, we don't forget. I remember at 3 years, I couldn't understand about death, but my mom kept it clear. Your dad went to heaven and he is not coming back. She would even take me to the grave. Dad is buried here and there is no time he is ever coming back. You see, I was never lied like he went on a trip. He will come back after 20 years. And so I grew up understanding, like, I knew I had a dad. He went to heaven and he is never coming back. All I wish to say is to be true and to be honest. What happened? If it's sickness, you can just say, Daddy or Mommy was sick for quite some time, and maybe you saw how they were, or maybe an accident happened. 1, 2, 3, they fell, something happened, and they died. And because of that, they become an angel. And speaking of that, I remember Lemuel asking me, at what point do we go to heaven? Because our body is buried. And my daughter answered her something like, I've never talked about with her, about the soul. And Iceland told her, when we die, like when someone dies, their soul live and they go to heaven. It's the soul that becomes an angel. And I don't know where she learned that from. Maybe it's from school or in church Sunday school. But she helped me at that point. And so my son couldn't understand what is soul. And then my daughter had to put it like, it's heart. What is in your heart? That's what goes into heaven. And then the body is buried. And so, like, just being honest and being true and explaining to the child to their level what is death and answering their questions, not brushing them off. I'm sure kids, they can ask a lot of questions. Just be honest with it. Like, answer how you'd like to be answered if you ask that certain question, but not to be brutal, because also you have to be cautious with their minds. Also, it won't affect your relationship with them, because if my mom ever lied to me that my dad is going to come back after 20 years, Will they have trusted her and loved her? I don't think so, because she lied. She thought I wouldn't understand. And yes, I wasn't understanding then. But the fact that she lied, I wouldn't have forgotten that. And so, yeah, it's all about, to the child's level, explain, be true, and be honest. We don't have a manual of doing that. It's understanding your child and you too. Yeah.
I want to thank Karen Gay for sharing her story with us. It's definitely left me with a lot to think about, with my biggest takeaway being that at some point I will need to introduce my kids to their late grandfather, my father who passed away 8 years ago and whose grief I'm still grappling with. Remember that you can show support for this podcast by sharing it with someone you think would find it valuable and by donating to the show. Think of it like buying me a cute bouquet of flowers to look at around my house. Those tend to bring me a moment of joy, especially when those moments are hard to find. As always, you can check out the show notes for the till number. Any amount goes a very long way. Next week, we will chat with a mom who got a second chance of love and family right here in Kenya. All right, catch you next time. Bye.